Okay, so good morning, everyone. Now that it's 10:30, I think we'll get started. So thank you so much for joining us this morning on our joint webinar with Searches UK. I appreciate that lots of you are really busy. Just as a quick introduction to myself, my name is Cheryl. I'm a key relationship manager at a company called Lawyer Checker. I've been with the business now for a number of years, and I have first-hand experience in supporting law firms and businesses operating in the legal sector with getting the Cyber Essentials certification. Now, just in terms of a little bit of housekeeping, if you've got any questions as we go through the webinar, I will keep checking the questions pane within the webinar. And also, if you want to get in touch with Searches UK afterwards to ask them any questions that you might have, feel free to do so, and I will come back to you. But the purpose of the next 20 minutes or so is really for me to delve into why your firm should be considering the Cyber Essentials certification if you haven't already, and what benefits there are to your business of becoming certified. How, and of course, and how Lawyer Checker and Searches UK can help you achieve the certification as well and begin reaping the benefits of that this year. Okay. So in case some of you are not aware of who Lawyer Checker are, our services are currently used in 1 in 4 conveyancing transactions in England and Wales. And generally, we position ourselves as the go-to business for law firms when it comes to cybersecurity. Now, as part of this, we very much practice what we preach. So we have cybersecurity at the heart of absolutely everything that we do. We ourselves are Cyber Essentials Plus certified, as well as being ISO 27001 accredited, which is an internationally recognized standard of cybersecurity. And in January 2019, we became an IASME approved assessment centre for a range of cybersecurity standards, and I've been working with law firms and legal businesses to put these standards in place ever since. So supporting law firms and businesses operating in the legal sector with their cybersecurity is something that we specialise in as a business. Our experience with law firms and our position in the market really allows us to have a good understanding of the type of business you run or work for, what your setup likely looks like, and the types of challenges that you're also likely facing as well. And I think that can't really be said for many cybersecurity providers there. And I think it's fair for me to say as well that the legal sector faces risks like no other when it comes to cybercrime. So having a true understanding of the level of threat and the risk puts us in a really good position to advise you on what's best practice and what a good standard looks like when it comes to your IT and security. And let's face it, in this day and age, this is one of the most important parts of your business and is becoming more and more important as we move into a remote or digital new normal, as they say. Okay, so as a business who's been working in the legal sector to deliver cyber essentials to law firms for a number of years, I can say with knowledge and experience that in the last 12 months in particular, we have seen a huge U-turn in the market to firms looking to become certified. And in particular, the regulators across the board are starting to make a lot of noise about these certifications and the benefits that can be derived from them at business level. Now, one thing that I really think hones in on some of the important points for consideration is the SRA's thematic review for cybercrime, which came out in September of last year. If you haven't had a chance to read through this, I would highly recommend that you do. I've put the link on the slides there so you can access that, and a recording of these slides will be shared with you following the session today as well. But what I want to draw your attention to is that in their thematic review, the SRA carried out an audit of 40 law firms, and it transpired that 30 of them had been a direct recipient of a cyber incident. The remaining 10 said that their clients had been direct recipients of a cyber attack. So in this fact, in the fact find conducted by the SRA, we can see that actually 100% of businesses involved had experienced some form of cyber issue that year. Now, interestingly, the SRA also state that firms who had this type of certification in place were actually better placed to mitigate the threat of future cybersecurity incidences than those who didn't. And I think that's probably one of the most powerful pieces of regulator content that I've seen recently when it comes to this stuff. Lexcel and CQS also say that firms should be considering the Cyber Essentials standard, and more recently, groups such as the CA, for example, are also saying that firms should be looking at using Cyber Essentials as a way of assessing your firm's exposure to cybercrime. And it is a should. Very rarely would you get the regulator saying that you must do something, but the regulator is ultimately there to help guide you in what is best practice, and the information and statistics around cybersecurity incidences really speak for themselves. So, why ignore good practical advice based on whether it says should or must? Later down the line, ignoring this kind of information and advice could be something that ultimately you come to regret. So really, it's worth thinking about and taking seriously. Now that brings me nicely on to another key point that was raised in the thematic review, actually, and that was that there was a lack of understanding demonstrated by directors and partners in firms as to some of the really basic cybersecurity practices that firms should be operating with. And this is something that as a business, we have seen ourselves over the years when helping firms get this stuff right also. Now, particularly in firms who outsource their IT, for example, generally what the SRA have found is that there is almost this culture of outsourcing responsibility when it comes to cybersecurity. And there is a clear distinction between your IT and your cybersecurity. Now, you may be working with an IT provider who doesn't necessarily specialize in the legal sector and therefore doesn't really have a true understanding of the level of risk your business actually faces. Now, at the end of the day, if your business or firm were to have like a cybersecurity incident which resulted in a breach or a loss of client money or data, it would be the directors or the partners of the firm that would have to answer to the regulator and the SRA. So ultimately, it's your neck on the chopping block. Now, I think this culture of almost outsourcing the responsibility and this feeling of cybersecurity goes kind of over your head in a way is down to the misconception that cybersecurity is difficult and unreachable. Now, the beauty of cybersecurity certifications such as Cyber Essentials is that it really is looking at whether or not your business is excellent at the basics. So it's not massively complicated, but it does make sure that on a basic level, you're operating within good standards and you're doing what you should be doing to make sure that future instances can be prevented. So as a director or a partner in a firm, being able to show the regulator that actually you have been proactive and you've taken steps towards achieving something like Cyber Essentials is a really good way of being able to show that actually, whilst you do have an IT team or you do outsource your IT, you are well and truly involved in the active protection of the firm from cyber threats. And I think this is actually a really strong story to be able to sell to the regulators and even the insurers as well. Okay, so let's take a look at what is Cyber Essentials. So Cyber Essentials is derived from the National Cybersecurity Centre, which is born out of GCHQ. So this is a government-backed scheme. And they comment on the fact that by having Cyber Essentials implemented correctly, you should be able to protect your business from 80% of cyber threats. Now, as I touched on earlier, the principle behind doing this is all around marginal gains and being really good at the basics. In particular, if your competitors are doing it, then so should you. Now, the certificate itself is looking at 5 key areas of vulnerability. This is what the National Centre for Cybersecurity thinks are the basics and what the scheme itself is designed to focus on. So we have, does your firm have a firewall? Do you keep your devices and software up to date? Are you protecting your firm from viruses and malware? How do you control who has access to your data and services? And do you have user secure settings for your devices? So they're the 5 key areas that the Cyber Essentials certificate is looking at. And it really is, it's very much does exactly what it says in the name. It's looking at the basic essentials for cybersecurity and have you got these set up correctly in your business to prevent cybersecurity incidences. So I think it's useful for me to quickly touch upon some of the common issues that we see in firms when it comes to cybersecurity. And this is the type of the thing that Cyber Essentials aims to get you to work on and prevent, because they can be absolutely detrimental to your firm's armour when you're looking at potential threats. So the first is out-of-date applications. This is easily #1 mistake that we see with firms. So are you working with or are you using software that is no longer supported? Now, if you are, really is the criminal's dream. It's so incredibly important that your device is getting the most up-to-date cybersecurity updates from your applications. And if it's not, then your device is pretty much like a sitting duck waiting to be found out effectively. Now, Cyber Essentials can help you focus on bringing your software up to date so that you're in the best position to mitigate the risks outdated software can actually cause. The next is not segregating admin accounts from standard user accounts. So this is quite an interesting one. If you think about your IT team, they may be browsing the web and email with admin access, which inherently are more dangerous and riskier for your firm than a standard account. So being selective about who has admin access and who doesn't is just something to think about. And by managing user controls in this way, you're then able to manage the level of risk user access has to your firm also. And we also see quite a lot of times where a firm has antivirus in place, but actually it's not set up to block attachments on download because too many file types have been whitelisted. So you potentially run the risk of exposing yourself in that way also. These 3 or 4 basic things are all common mistakes made by firms, and actually just by tightening your belt a little bit around this stuff and getting these basic things right really can make a difference in your exposure to the threats. So how do you become Cyber Essentials certified? So the process for the certificate is really straightforward. In fact, the process itself is actually a self-verified process. So firstly, as a business, we're here to support you with getting the standard in place. So ahead of completing the application, we will send you some documentation and guides that can help you prepare for the assessment. It's also important to note as well, I think that this can be carried out either by yourself or with the help of your IT team or your IT provider. So we can work directly with the relevant person in your business to make sure that everything is running as it should be. Once you feel ready to get started with the assessment, what we will do is we'll release the Cyber Essentials credentials to you so that you can log into the portal and begin completing the Cyber Essentials questionnaire. Now, these questions, of course, in the questionnaire are going to be looking at those 5 key areas of vulnerability that I talked through earlier. And it should take one person about 1 morning to complete. So from a resource point of view, it's not very onerous. And obviously, of course, as I said, you can get anybody in the firm to complete it, anybody with general knowledge around your IT and your setup. So once you've completed your questionnaire, that's then returned to us. We have an in-house ISO 27001 lead auditor and Cyber Essentials assessor who will then mark your questionnaire against the Cyber Essentials standard and will establish at this stage whether your firm is meeting the correct requirements. So if we find that actually you're still a little short on some of the requirements, we'll let you know what it is and what it is that needs to be done about it. So you'll have 2 business days to make these changes. And you might be thinking, okay, well, 2 business days sounds like quite a short timeline. But actually, from our experience, this is plenty of time. And often, some of the changes might just be that we require some additional information from you on a couple of points. But 2 days is usually plenty of time to make the changes. And then once you've resubmitted your questionnaire to us, we can get you passed for Cyber Essentials, and you'll be added to the National Centre for Cybersecurity's role for certified businesses. Within the Cyber Essentials portal, you'll also be able to access all of the Cyber Essentials branding. So you can put that on your website, you can put it on your email footers, you can effectively use it for everything to show people that you work with and to show your clients that you've got Cyber Essentials in place. So as I was saying earlier, who needs to complete the assessment? It can be anybody in the business. Our aim here is really to make getting Cyber Essentials much easier for you and to help you get access, to good standard of cybersecurity. So it can be anybody in the business. This could be someone who works internally in the business, or it could be someone in your outsourced IT. But it should only take about half a day to complete the basic assessment. So it's well worth thinking about and shouldn't impact too much on your resources either. Now, the benefits to the certificate, I mean, there really are just so many. So as I touched on earlier in the webinar, having the correct measures in place, even the basics, such as what Cyber Essentials covers, can actually help you mitigate 80% of common cyber threats to your business. When you think about it, there's some law firms out there that will be targeted hundreds of times a year. So actually 80% it really is quite a lot. It is significant, and it's well worth, doing and thinking about. In terms of the market, we've seen so many businesses and firms look to get this kind of certificate in place. So obviously, this is becoming more of a new normal now, to have something in place. So what you wouldn't want to do is almost leave yourselves behind by not looking at it. Clients are becoming more aware of the Cyber Essentials branding, other firms are becoming more aware of the Cyber Essentials branding, but also so are cyber criminals. So by having that branding, on your website, it almost helps you paint a really strong external picture when it comes to cybersecurity. If a criminal kind of goes on your website and sees that you've got this standard in place, they are more likely to move on to the firm who doesn't, and redirect their target effectively. Whereas if you don't look at something like this and all your competitors have, then you're going to be that sitting duck that ultimately they move on to. Obviously, within the SRA thematic review and within the SRA risk outlook, the regulators are starting to make a lot of noise around Cyber Essentials. So it's really good for you, as a firm, to be able to show that you're being proactive, that you've taken, proactive steps to mitigate these kinds of risks, that you're demonstrating that you've got a good level of cybersecurity in place in your firm, and that actually you've not outsourced responsibility for cybersecurity, to any outsourced IT people as such, and you do play an active role in making sure that your firm is safe from these types of threats. And the Cyber Essentials stuff and the branding, it all acts as a natural deterrent. As I was saying, the cyber criminal will ultimately move on to the next business that hasn't bothered to put these types of measures in place, and it can really help you sell a really good, strong story to your regulator insurer as to what it is that you're doing from a cybersecurity viewpoint. So I'm really, really excited to be able to tell you about an offer that Searches UK are giving away. So this is an exclusive offer for all new and existing Searches UK clients. So if you sign up with Searches UK for your searches, they will give you your Cyber Essentials certificate free of charge. So that's such a great offer. We will be working with Searches UK to help you get this certificate put in place. So if you are interested in working with Searches UK and you'd like to be able to get Cyber Essentials put in place, please do get in touch with Searches UK, and we'll be more than happy to work with you on this project this year. Ultimately, both Searches UK and Lawyer Checker are here to help make cybersecurity easy for your business. We want it to be accessible. We don't use, heavily IT jargon or anything like that. We do it and we deliver it in a way that's easy for you to understand. So I really wouldn't want you guys to miss out on this offer. This is a brilliant offer, and please do get in touch with Searches UK if you'd like to get started with that. And as I was saying, as a business, we've got so much experience in helping law firms get these certificates in place. It's what we specialize in. We specialize in the legal sector, and we specialize in doing so for law firms. And it really does give us a very good insight as to the types of businesses that you guys run, what your setup looks like, and we can help. We really do have a good understanding of the risks that you're facing as well, and that puts us in a good position to help you effectively. So that's all from me this morning. Nice and short and sweet, but I hope that it covered everything that you needed to know about the Cyber Essentials certificates. As I was saying, if you have any questions at all around how to get the certificate or anything about the certificate itself, please feel free to get in touch with Searches UK or myself, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Feel free to email in afterwards as well. But hopefully I'm looking forward to working with some of you, if not all of you, over the next few weeks to get your Cyber Essentials certificate in place. And I look forward to speaking again soon. Thanks so much. Bye.